Independent State MP Billy Gordon has apologised today after being charged with drink driving and unlicensed driving. The member for Cook was allegedly nearly twice over the legal limit when he was pulled over by police near Mareeba last night. In a statement, Billy Gordon has apologised to his constituents, saying it was a case of poor judgment. He will appear in court later this month. Today, the Road Safety Minister, Mark Bailey, said that there is absolutely no excuse for drink driving.
It is very disappointing. There is no excuse for drink driving. There is no excuse for driving without a licence. When you put other people at risk, it is totally unacceptable. It is very disappointing. It's an offence. It's not a criminal offence. Mr Gordon's still the member for Cook, and he's been elected by the people of Cook to represent them in Parliament. That doesn't change, but it is a very disappointing turn of events. He should know better. It's very important that MPs send out signals about what is appropriate behaviour, and it's a very disappointing turn of events.
So that was the Road Safety Minister, Mark Bailey. Far North Queensland politician Curtis Pitt, in fact the State Treasurer, says he's very disappointed with this turn of events.
I think anyone who knows and has seen any kind of road trauma, I was a former auxiliary firefighter and attended many motor vehicle accidents. We know that people who are either not paying attention behind the wheel or worse, if they're actually inhibited by alcohol, they are not in control, and of course that means that there are going to be dire consequences. This is a serious issue. I understand that he's made comments that he regrets his actions. I think that those comments should be well noted. This is not acceptable behaviour, and of course police have done the right thing by ensuring that he has been made to stand and respond to what's a very serious thing.
Should he stand down?
Well, look, he's not a member of the Labor caucus. He's an independent member. He, of course, has got to answer to his constituents, and of course, the appropriateness of parliamentarians and their behaviour is something that I guess all parliamentarians have to reflect on. What I would say is that this incident, there's no excusing what he's done. I do know that he has been working hard in his electorate, but that's going to be for his constituents to make the decision.
So that's Far North Queensland politician Curtis Pitt with his views on the Billy Gordon drink driving charges that were laid last night. Low-range drink driving, mind you. As the law stands in this state, politicians can be disqualified from serving if they are sentenced to more than a year in jail. Could that be a possibility here? Someone who might know is Queensland traffic lawyer Andrew Wiseman. He's with us now on ABC Far North. Good afternoon, Andrew Wiseman.
Afternoon, Adam.
So what penalty would typically someone who has a blood alcohol reading of 0.094 while driving unlicensed expect to get?
Well, disqualification-wise, the maximum is 9 months. If the person's on their open licence, the mandatory minimum is 1 month, but then if that person isn't the holder of a valid licence, it ups to the minimum of 3 months. So for the drink driving offence alone, the best case scenario is 3 months, but then there's other penalties that attach to the unlicensed component as well.
Is jail time ever given for a low-range offence like this?
Look, technically, if you look at the legislation, jail is technically a potential penalty, but realistically, for a first-time offence, I don't know the member's traffic history, but it's almost a certainty that it would not result from a low-range drink driving first-time offence, even coupled with the unlicensed component.
It was being reported by some sections of the media today, and I think I even read it in one ABC report, as a mid-range drink driving offence. Is that not the case?
No, not at all. In Queensland, mid-range doesn't start until 0.100, and obviously the reading of 0.094 is below that, so that makes a low-range offence.
Billy Gordon has today issued an apology via a written statement. How much weight would that carry in court?
Oh, a substantial amount. Particularly, I note the circumstances. There was a death in the family, and I mean, persons are very quick to tut persons in his situation. But on the flip side, there's a lot of talk about mental health in the workplace and such. But there seems to be an obvious gap in people's minds between this type of offending and the mental health issues that lead to it. And clearly, the grief that comes with the death of a loved one would be the type of mental health that would push a person to make a regretful decision such as this. So for certain members of Parliament to take the high ground without digging deeper with regard to the underlying issues, it's a bit of a cop-out in my book.
Andrew Wiseman is a Queensland traffic lawyer. Andrew, would a judge take something like a family tragedy into consideration when making a ruling on a case like this?
Yeah, look, basically, when anyone goes to court, the police will give their version of the events, so time, date, what happened, reading, whether or not the person was cooperative or difficult, etc. They'll hand up the history, and then if the person's adequately represented, or for example, if I was to represent the member hypothetically, I'd tender character references, which I'd get the person to obtain. There's in situations where it's beyond the first time offence and there's previous and the serious risk of something worse happening, such as jail, I will hand up summaries of relevant case law to try and guide the magistrate, etc. And if there is mental health issues, I will get psychological reports, or at the very least letters from a GP or treating psychologist or psychiatrist to try and put the magistrate in the shoes of the defendant on the day in question. Because at the end of the day, as I said, it's all good and well to start pointing fingers, but we've got persons who are running for federal parliament at the moment who are married to persons who have been convicted of much worse, and I think everyone should give this guy a break.
Andrew Wiseman, what kind of defences are available to someone charged with just generally low-range drink driving?
Well, there's no defences as such other than emergency. So, for example, if, let's say hypothetically, if someone was driving along with someone having a heart attack, trying to get into the hospital, that would be a defence. But that said, once the person had been taken to the hospital, if that person was then to drive home, it would no longer be a defence. But generally, with drink driving or drug driving or that type of offending, there is no real defence. It's more about either minimising the damage and getting the disqualification down as low as possible, or, where eligible, obtaining a work licence for the person in question, which what that means is the person still gets disqualified, but an exemption is made allowing that person to drive during the disqualification for work purposes only. Because as you can imagine, if someone was to live in rural far north Queensland and, for example, drive trucks for a living, they're going to suffer far worse than a hairdresser who lives in Brisbane City and works in Brisbane City. I guess it's a equitable application of the law to make sure that the real world outcomes are even, as opposed to the penalty on paper.
You're someone that represents people who get caught drink driving. We've heard politicians today saying it's an inexcusable offence, and members of the public for that matter. Would you agree with that?
Look, if persons who are saying this could pull back the veil of society and see exactly who it is that approaches me to act for them, I think they'd get the shock of their life there. It's very easy to, speak in terms of the stereotype 18-year-old who does burnouts with his fist out the window. But I can tell you, I've acted for more, and I don't like to use the term because I find it to be quite elitist, but I've acted for more white-collar persons than I have blue-collar, and I think these people who are shooting the mouth off need to dig a bit deeper and look at the underlying issues. And as I said, everyone's quick to speak about mental health, but they're very slow to put it into practice, especially when it's relating to persons in Mr. Gordon's position.
Andrew Wiseman, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on ABC Far North.
Thank you, Adam.
Appreciate it. Andrew Wiseman, a Queensland traffic lawyer.